Hello and welcome to another episode of the Reiki Lifestyle Podcast. I am here with Colleen. Colleen, if you want to just say hi.
Hello, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, and Danny.
Hello, everybody.
And we're actually here with a group. There's about 25 of us total. And this is the episode where we have our Q&A episode of the podcast. So we do this monthly, where you can come live and ask your Reiki questions. And there's all sorts of ways that you can come on and even kind of remain somewhat anonymous and still ask your Reiki questions. We also do have emailed questions, but sometimes we get going into our conversations here live that we may not get to them. But again, this is a monthly occurrence. So if you are interested in coming and asking any questions, you can sign up for the podcast list and we email out the information about that and the Zoom link for that. So it's one of our favorites. It's actually a little bit of history. What the podcast started as was we were just laughing about this actually the other day, but it's because Colleen called it a global teleconference call for years. And my husband, who had encouraged her to start a podcast, this was before I kind of joined the Reiki lifestyle operation. My husband had been telling her for years, like, you need to start a podcast. You need to start a podcast. And then what was it, like 2009 that you started this, Colleen? It was really early.
Yeah, really early in podcasting.
Yeah.
To my defense.
No, it was fantastic. She was doing a podcast. She just didn't realize that it was a podcast.
I just couldn't grasp it for 2 years.
Yeah.
And it was even called a Reiki Chat podcast.
Yeah. And so my husband was like, no, you have a podcast, because it was being distributed on all the podcast platforms and like Apple Podcasts and all of those. And my husband would be like, no, you have a podcast. You're already doing it. And then finally podcasting got kind of popular enough in general that there was that grasping of what like a podcast is, which is crazy to think now that that wasn't that long ago.
Well, and the equipment we needed for it.
Oh yeah, isn't that true?
Remember that?
Yeah.
All of the different recording devices and getting quality and cameras and the ability to communicate with everybody. That's when we used free conference call, which is why I kept calling it a global teleconference call, because we were on free conference call, which was one of the very first really big platforms that allowed us to have, group communications. And so before everything went. So anyway,
it's just a fun little history of it, that this has been the longest style of podcasting that Reiki Lifestyle has been doing. So pretty fun. Anyways, we love it. We do it once a month. You can come in and ask your questions, and it's a fun monthly thing that we love to do. Yeah, Taylor was like, oh, global teleconference call sounds so much fancier and more official, especially before before podcasting was like a general term, like in the nomenclature. So yeah, pretty funny.
Well, I really just thought the people I was speaking to wouldn't know what I meant.
Well, it's true. Nobody knew what it was.
And nobody knew what it was.
Yeah.
Well, I want to finish up because I thought you were going to tell this part of the story, is that our first name for it was Reiki Chat. And so we were Reiki Chat for years. And then, really we were advised to rebrand to Reiki Lifestyle. So everything is Reiki Lifestyle all the way across the board, with our social media, our website, and that everything, so you don't have a bunch of different names. Well, so if you listen to the podcast that Robyn and I posted last week, was our take on all the new AI stuff, artificial intelligence. And so I've really gone down the rabbit hole with it. And, for her, it's more native, so she can understand it easily. She's just got the intuition for it. For me, it's really a lot of effort for me to track it all. So I've really gone down a rabbit hole with it, and I love the subject. And so anyway, this past week, I thought, well, there are AI domain names. And so we were trying to decide, what domain name would I get? And of course, wanted Reiki Lifestyle.ai. Well, then I realized, well, Reiki Chat.ai is a great name for artificial intelligence. So we're back to another Reiki chat, but not in this context. It'll still stay Reiki Lifestyle. But Robyn, I have to tell you, I was really pleased the other night when I told Sean, her husband, who's very, he's very tech savvy and kind of futuristic in the way he thinks. And I told him that I got Reiki Chat.ai. He was like, that's a great name. So I was like, okay.
Got the seal of approval.
Got the
Our
seal of
resident
approval.
tech person.
Mhm. So,
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, we better not start with AI
those
stuff, because
yeah.
Colleen and I can talk about it for hours and hours and hours, and we do. But if you are interested in that and how it applies to Reiki and all of the things, you can listen to that episode of the podcast. All right, so just a few announcements really quick. All of our classes, things like that, can be found at reikilifestyle.com. By the time this is released, we will have a animal Reiki class coming up. So that's in March. If you want to look at our animal Reiki 1 and 2 and animal Reiki master classes, you can go to reikilifestyle.com. We do teach about once animal Reiki we teach every other month, and then Colleen teaches human Reiki classes every other month. So you can just go and look at our calendar and our schedule, and
the Japan class.
I figured you'll announce the Japan class. So you can just look at our classes, our calendar, to see all of the things that we have going on. All right, go ahead, Colleen.
Oh, just mentioning I think there's still maybe one space left for the Karuna class and a couple spaces left for the Reiki master class in Japan on Mount Karama. And so we've done that before. William Rand and I are teaching together, and we've done that before, and it is extraordinary. So anyway.
Awesome. You can find it at reiki.org.
Oh yeah, and that's reiki.org.
And then all of our social is either Reiki Lifestyle like official, or Robyn Benelli Reiki. All right. So I think probably let's go into an invocation.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think that could be utilized. So I usually turn off my video during this part. So if you want to, if you're here, you can turn off your video or leave it on. It's up to you. And we'll go ahead and go into an invocation. Why we do the invocations is essentially what they are invoking the Reiki energy. So they are inviting the Reiki energy. For, Colleen and myself and many others here that have shared this is, or shared with us, that we do this at the beginning of a lot of our different things, classes, sessions, obviously those kind of really energetic things, but even like team meetings, we'll do them in the beginning because it just helps with our clarity. It really helps with the Reiki energy being the backbone of a lot of things that we do, even when it's business related, even when it's technical, all of those kinds of things, because it helps to entrain us into higher frequencies. So it's really helpful for those kinds of things. If you are a Reiki practitioner, or if you have a Reiki business, and even if you don't, you can use it for all sorts of things. An invocation can be really helpful. So Colleen and I and Danny and many others here channel their invocations, but we all had to start somewhere. So I know at least myself used to read the invocations, and that was really helpful. And if you would like to look into that and have some templates, how you could create your own, we actually have a booklet in our free download section on our website, which is under the Reiki Lifestyle tab. I'm sorry, Reiki Library tab. And so you can go and look how to create your own, and also some that you can just even read for your different things that you might be called to do an invocation for. Okay, so I'm going to take a moment and clear my throat, but I thought I'd explain what they are and why we do them and how you can do them too for your own things. So then we'll go ahead and get started with an invocation. Give me just a moment. With eyes closed, take some deep breaths. Reiki energy, the Reiki light is surrounding you. And on those in-breaths, it's traveling in on your breath and filling your entire being. And on the out-breath, on your out-breath, send out on your breath all of the things that you're ready to let go of, any busyness of your day, things that you have to do after, any mind chatter, and send them into the light where they're to be carried for you and from you. And allow this time to be for you and about you. Bring your energy and attention and focus into this moment in time. Practicing mindfulness. Feel your body right here and right now. The physicality of it. The spirit that is within. That beautiful light that is you. We call in the Reiki energy and the symbols that are here to support you, support this circle, and those that are listening later, that are joining us later. And as you breathe in the frequencies of the symbols, and whether you're attuned to Reiki or not, you breathe them in. The power of love travels in on your breath. The power of self, power symbol, travels in on your breath. And you feel it as you breathe in, the effervescence of that symbol. One that looks like a spiral. And it lights up all of the cells within you. that vitality, life force energy, that key that is you. And anywhere where your light might feel dim or dimmed, that energy flows in on your breath and lights up all of those spaces within your body. The Reiki energy traveling down through the top of your head and on your breath, flowing through your chakras, all of your channels, your central and left and right channels, and flowing down into your feet and through, out through the bottoms of your feet and into the earth. The frequencies of your higher self, mental, emotional symbol, divine mind, that entrainment to your higher self, symbol that many describe as a dragon or that sort of shape. Those frequencies flow in on your breath and down through the top of your head, the crown. And they light up some of those less seen things that are a part of your physicality, your intuition, your instincts, the listening to that higher self that knows the best things for you. That guides you on your path. The self-love, the entrainment to the higher frequencies, the higher vibration of you. And you perceive it now. And it is one within you. Higher self and your physical earthly self, unified right here, right now in your body. And you hear you. We call in the distance symbol, the one that is the long kanji, so much more than the distance symbol, the power of love that's at the core of your being. It travels outside of time and space. It is the connection to the divine. And that awakening of the divine within you. All life, the universe, is right here within you, right now. And you are the universe, right here, right now. And so it flows through you and awakening that God energy that is you right here within. The stars and the galaxies right here within you. Pure love, the source of consciousness, right here within you. And you sit with that for a moment as you feel the eons of time forward and backward within you, made of stardust, made of the elements and the atoms, made of the divine. And you feel that energy flowing down through the top of your head, and connecting in. So you are made of that energy. Ki, chi, life force energy, all right here, right now, within your body, within your mind, within your spirit. And the enlightened ones are here in a circle around you, shining their light onto you. They are made of the divine, as you are made of the divine. And you lift into the higher frequencies of you. And you entrain to the frequencies that they are made of. The stars and the light and the unseen frequencies of pure love. Pure joy, pure beauty, pure grace and compassion. The tree of life is here. Just like the tree of life, your body is made of the earth. As her roots go down to the earth, your spirit is made from the higher levels of consciousness, the divine. Just as her branches receive from the heavens from above. It's all right here within you. Communicating from below, communicating from above. Contained. All right here within. We say thank you to the enlightened ones that have joined us here today in our circle and that are around us always. So grateful for your guidance, for the love that you help us to feel in our daily life. And we say thank you to each other. Our circle is always divinely ordered, and we were meant to be here together today. Thank you. And we say thank you to the earth for housing us in this moment in time in our bodies. Thank you. We say thank you to Reiki, to this enlightened energy that helps to guide us. We're so grateful. We say thank you to the ancestors, teachers that have come before us, to the descendants, and the students that come after us. We are honored to be in this lineage of light bringers, continuing to bring forth more light onto the earth. And so say thank you to you now. How extraordinary you are. You are the universe. And the universe is you. And that is a miracle. Thank you. And so it is. Right. Thank you, everyone. You're muted, Colleen.
Thank
And
you.
normally we like to take a little more time to come back, but in this setting, we need to come back a little quicker.
I have a somewhat technical question, I guess, about journeying for others. I'm really not experienced in that, so I only had three. I did it 3 times basically, and 3 times, all 3 times were so different in terms of how what I experienced myself during the journeys. So I'll just describe all 3. So the one that I did for my family member, for the person that I really, really close to, during the journey, I basically was that person. So I felt everything they felt. It really felt like I was them. Then I was a different person during our class. I guess I also felt more connected to that person. But during that journey, I was observing from above everything that was happening. But still, I had some feeling. I kind of a little bit felt that what that person was feeling. The third time, I didn't feel, during the interview, I didn't feel much of a connection to the person. And during the journey, it was really weird. It was like, it felt like I was only half there. It was like looking at everything that was happening through like the side vision. I didn't feel anything that that person was going on there with that person, and I almost felt like I was BSing everything, like I was everything, like just making up whatever was happening. And but at the end, that when I was sharing what the journey was about, it turned out that I couldn't have known, but that person, it had a lot of meaning for that person, not for me though. So I guess my question is, I understand that there's no specific way that it should be happening, and every experience could be different, but do I need to look for a specific way I do it, or just let it be whatever it is, uh, and hope for the best? I guess from your experience, like, what is there anything I should prepare myself and look for something, some specific experience or specific way I should approach it? I know it's very
Oh,
confusing what I'm asking, I guess.
It's not at all confusing. And there's a couple of different answers with it when you are journeying. And in this case, you are journeying for others. The fact that it is different each time is validation for you that it is, you are not making it up. Now, at the same time, some people do have things happen the same way every time. So I don't want to invalidate that either. What happens with journeying is, first of all, you get a better sense as you gain more experience as to your intuition style and how journeying works for you. How does it show up? How is your intuition working? And then, of course, in the training that you've been going through with the Next Step Reiki classes is, how is this all presenting for you working with Reiki and journeys? So the three ways that you described, the first way with merging with the client, that would be what I would think of as a specific technique. So when you merge with something, or let's say you merge with a spirit guide to do the work, and where you are actually embodied, that is a particular style. So as a practitioner, you get to determine if that is the style you want to work in, the technique that you want to use, or are you doing it a different way, or are you good with it doing what it did where all three of them were so different. So to a certain extent, you get to align with the technique and the style that you want to personally practice. So the other one where you were more closely in observation of the person, I would say for myself, that's probably commonly how the journeys work for me. But that is not because it's the right way. It's the way that it works for me. And that is one of the ways it showed you that it works for you. I have training in the merging. As a practitioner, my preference is to be in the observation style of journey technique for others. So it's a choice of technique. And at the same time, you can also choose to allow it to show up each way. But if you have an understanding that, oh, okay, this time I'm merged, the next time I'm observing, both are just different techniques, different methods of doing the work, different methods of the way your intuition style works. Then the third one is really the validation that for your client, it all had meaning for your client. And at the same time, you personally did not engage or experience the same level as maybe you did the other two. And so that's also validation of the awareness that it really, none of it is about your experience as the practitioner. All of it is about the experience of the client. The wonderful part of it is that as practitioners, we do have experience that is highly beneficial and valuable to us as we are in that receiving place. The main piece with that is the understanding that Reiki does not require the practitioner to have an experience for it to be the Reiki energy to do the work. Reiki journeys are, none of them are about making and I know you know this, but I'm saying this to everybody. When you journey with Reiki in a session for others, none of it is about like, did you get it right? Or are you directing Reiki because of the journey? The journey is you observing how Reiki is doing the work. And it teaches you. So many of the times you have those incredible experiences because in my experience, when I'm in that observation, I'm also really in the energy of it. And so I do get to have the experience along with the client as far as, I'm not engaged in their experience, but I'm getting to have, how Reiki works. We receive as we give. But again, I think it's really important to clarify for people that it's none of it is dependent on you being able to journey, you being able to journey a particular way. Reiki works regardless. But in your case, Alina, I think that is really the indicator of the skill level you are developing, because that's a really great skill level to be able to allow the Reiki to come through the way that it did in each way, stay out of the way enough to simply observe your process as a practitioner, and then, be able to ask about it and understand it. So it's really pretty amazing validation for you and the skill level you are stepping into with it, because that is how it works for me. I never know what's going to happen. In fact, as soon as I think I know what's going to happen, 100% of the time, it's not how it shows up. So for any of you not quite sure what exactly we're talking about, let me just quickly explain. Alina is in the training classes that we have called Next Step Reiki, and they're year-long courses. And one of the skills that is, that you develop in it is how to journey with Reiki. So, and what that does is takes you into a heightened intuitive state of being able to observe what Reiki is doing in a session with a client or yourself. And so it's not all about, how do you journey for someone else? It's about how do you do it for yourself using Reiki energy to access these higher states of consciousness. which is exactly what you just described. So as you have more experiences like this, Alina, you'll start to recognize some of the consistencies, but also, doing exactly what you did is just allow it. The merging one is one that not everybody likes to be in a merged state. So that's a choice you can make as a practitioner. It is a training that I had in my shamanic training. We spent a year learning how to merge with a spirit guide and allow it to embody us and use our voice and be a part of us. So you just get to decide what what your style is, and it could be any of the above that you just mentioned, and it could be all of the above. So I would say good job.
Oh, thank you so much, Colleen. And then so I guess the question is, if I decide what way is the best, works the best for me, do I just set an intention, or and what if it doesn't go my way? What, just let it go? And
Yeah, just observe it.
okay.
The first thing is that you are safe and your client is safe. And that is one of the wonderful qualities of Reiki energy. It's because of the attunement, Reiki is always doing the work. And you can't, it's not going to do anything differently than how it does the work because of you learning your skills with journeying. And so remember, even in the middle of it, you can dialogue with it. So let's say I was in a merge and I was like, yeah, I'm just not quite there to be able to hold it, to be in it. I'm a little uncomfortable. Maybe that particular client is going to think it's, even like hard for them to wrap around. And so I would dialogue with it right in the middle of it and say, and then just feel yourself moving back into that observation.
Okay. Yeah, I would definitely wouldn't feel comfortable merging with someone not that close to me.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want that experience with a different person.
Yeah, I definitely, like when I'm working with family members or even with Robyn, we have a discussion in advance so that I'm not connecting in at a level that isn't, something, since we're mother-daughter, the things that, are really private for her. And I can stay back from that and, actually let the energy know that's that's the style that we're doing. And then other times, even like the one that we just put on our YouTube channel, this session we did together, and went into super deep ancestral histories and her history this time. So yeah, you're doing great. And so you're doing what you do with it is keep gaining experience, ask about it, and also remember to ask the energy itself.
Oh, yeah, I never do that. Yeah,
Yeah,
to
I know. It
remember.
took me years to remember. Oh yeah, I can ask Reiki. Took me so many years to remember. And I was telling somebody the other day, even like, how we talk about Reiki on the fly during your day as your life management tool. And sometimes it's like, God, I could have used Reiki. What was I thinking? I totally forgot, like over my head, that in this circumstance, I have Reiki available. And so I will actually go back with the distance symbol and send Reiki to myself from before the time I wish I had remembered to use it. I saw that, Cass. Like, oh yeah, good idea. It's like, oh yeah, and send it back to myself from before I needed it.
Thank you
So
so much, Colleen. Yeah, thank you.
yeah, you're really welcome. I'm glad you asked. Okay.
Right. So next we have M. If you want to ask your animal Reiki question.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I have a block on this because I'm attached to the outcome. I'm on the East Coast in the Mid-Atlantic region. And in the last 7 weeks, we have had 9 whales, various species, beach themselves.
Oh,
And so much showed up for me. And I don't know what I don't know. And that's a lot. We had humpbacks, we had right whales. But it's in a real short mileage that this is occurring. So if anybody can help me understand what I don't know. Kaz, thank you for raising your hand. And then when I was communicating with Robyn about this, she shared that 2 whales had occurred in her neck of the wood. And I swim a lot year round without a wetsuit. And I'm very, very connected and very attached to this. So any feedback, anything will be appreciated.
well,
Well,
oh, go ahead, Cass.
normally what an animal will do is they will go to a place to end their life. Animals are not afraid of death like humans are. But what I've been hearing, because it's happening all over the places, the big whales, the dolphins, they're being beached. There's a few reasons. The one is they'll ram into a ship and they didn't see it or feel it or whatever, and their bodies get damaged. The other thing is the Navy. The Navy is doing a lot of sonar in the waters, and the sonar on the animals, this type of sonar is wrecking their eardrums and their own internal sonar. So they get like very disorientated and they just wind up dying. And the other one is, they're gonna end their own lives because they know they're finished. That's what I've been seeing and reading with this. But go ahead, Colleen, you're up now.
Well, for me, some of this is in the category of sometimes I don't have the answers for it. And there are answers out there. There are ideas about it all that are out there. And for me, where it takes me is what can I do? And, what I can do is really spreading Reiki for the animals. And I'm not saying that's the ultimate solution and that other people don't have other solutions. I go to what I can do, what I can do. And so right now, what I can do and we can do is do the work around the grief for the animals that also occurs within ourself around it. And, just move into that place of what I can do is work with Reiki for the animals on a large scale, for the waters, for humanity, for the earth. And also am, for you personally, that this is, as you say, so very personal for you. These are friends of yours that, are washing up, that you commune with on a regular basis. So I guess, it's an incomplete answer, and I can even hear that. I'm not bypassing the grief of it, and I'm not bypassing the concern for it. I have to take things like this and the world events to what I personally can do. And I believe in what we are doing right now is one of the things we can do. We do join together as community to empower, ourselves, each other, empower the waters where the animals are living and the water dwellers, and empower the earth, empower us for, humanity, for developing new innovations that are not causing harm. And so again, I know it's an incomplete answer, but it is particularly, I think, always having had an activist heart and always caring deeply about contributing wellness to the earth, and on a lifelong journey of how do I do that? Like, what is my role? And of course, that has changed at different times in my life. And of course, gone through cycles in my life of what that means and what the answers are. And so, in my younger days, being a political activist and finding out, after being a lobbyist for 2.5 years in the Oregon legislature, it was like, this is not the place for me to be an activist. This isn't working. It was so difficult for me to be in that arena. And so, went on a whole other pathway of teaching knitting, which sounds so like, how is that contributing to the world? But at the time, I felt that that was something that I could do that brought community together and people together, and taught texture and design and color and practicality and all of those things. And then that all merged into Reiki, and of course my own family and things like that. But in the bigger picture of what I can do and how that answered is, I feel like now at this point in my life, Reiki has shown me how it really is a form of activism. And it's not everybody's form, but it is today what I can do. There's so much. And so, Em, I hope that helps. And as
I
we've
have
been
some-
talking, I've been sending Reiki to you and for you.
I have
Oh,
some-
go ahead, Robyn.
Yeah, some thoughts too. So one of the things that I feel like is helpful for me, because I have I have compassion for the people too, and empathy, but the animals is one where I would say that my empathy is even more enhanced, and on the verge of even imbalanced. I, depending on where you're at with it, I find actually that it's helpful for me to sit in my emotions a little bit with it. That when I'm holding back those emotions around it, that it can almost keep it like that I'm not expressing them, and which is almost like a dam ready to burst. It's like I'm holding back, and it expresses in other areas of my life. And so with allowing myself to sit in it a little bit, it allows those emotions to flow out, and then I can kind of think and feel more clearly. I feel like the animal Reiki energy really helps with this and with our empathy and compassion around the animals. So I would suggest, calling in that. And also communing with the whales. Ask them, maybe even go and sit on the beach, or when you're swimming, ask them and get their perspective around it. To what Kaz said a little bit is that they do have a different perspective of all of it. And sometimes that can be surprising, and sometimes it's not surprising. Sometimes it is the answers that you have thought of in the human form. But the animal Reiki energy can help to deepen that connection. It helps to deepen the connection with the animals, but also the world, nature, the all things that live on the world, and the elements of the world. It helps to deepen that connection and to hear it, listen to it at an even deeper level. And so bringing that in as a part of this, and then also asking Reiki for your clarity on how you do want to respond. Is there a level of activism that you want to take? Is this your activism, as Colleen was saying, that there is that piece of it of healing yourself, healing, sending healing to the cause of it, sending healing to the whales, to everybody that's affected by it, because there's, I'm sure, a lot of people that are grieving around it. Clearing the area, there's different ways that you can utilize the Reiki energy as the activism. But what I find with that piece of it is that bringing it in, allowing you to be in the space that you're in, doing the healing work that you need to do for you, it helps with that clarity with all of the rest of it. That is where you can find that heart space of where is your next step around it all. Where do you want to go from here with it? And also knowing that the healing work and the Reiki energy, many times in doing the healing work, and I know you do a lot of that for others and for different areas and that kind of thing, that does help, and it does help to lift the vibration. It helps healing for others, it helps healing for the animals, for the areas, all of that kind of thing that it does help with. And you might not be called to do activism in other areas, but you can have your activism in this area, and that is helpful too. So yeah, but I know for me, when I see some of these things, it's like, if I just try to not feel my feelings around it, I'm just holding it all the time. Like, then it's like so much work to hold it. And a lot of times when I can just let it out in a space that I feel safe to do that, then I can move forward in an easier way and a more healed way, which is helpful to the situation.
Thank you.
And talk to them. They're still, their spirit. They talk to them. I know you do that, and so talk to them. Ask them.
I do. And what I have found, like when I'm really attached, I have a blockage on receiving the answer. And to each of you, you each spoke to, as a body, you answered the question, because every 3 years, they dredge to build the beaches back up here. And in addition to that, Wallops Island is very close by, as well as Norfolk, and we have a lot of naval activity. And they're also preparing, they do the sonar, Kaz, you're absolutely correct. Something as simple as that, I do get blocked on, 9 and 7 weeks. For me, it's the pattern recognition. It's like something is occurring. What is it? and what is there for us to be responsible and accountable for in creating wellness in the world. But there's been a lot of research up and down the coast for wind farms, putting wind farms out.
Well, and that's where the Reiki can help you, and that's where the animal Reiki can help you, because there's so much of that it's overwhelming to try to comprehend it, understand it, fix it. You know, we're one person and we can't. And so that's where bringing in the Reiki energy can help with that, because we all have that, and it's hard, I think, for all of us to, you know, I mean, unfortunately, it's like the reality of our world, and it's like all of the things, you know, I mean, it's infinite, and all of the things that those kinds of things are true, and how we aren't necessarily living in communion with our world at this point. But we can't, as one person, we can't fix it. And so that's where the Reiki energy will really help to come in and help you and support you with that, because it's like I could talk about a different subject and I could name a million things that are affecting the planet because of A, B, and C. And it you know, frankly, it's overwhelming sometimes. It really is. And there's the different things that really speak to where we are impacted, the different events where we can personally be impacted, where we're so connected, and like you said, attached to what has happened because, and the list goes on and on and on. And I honestly, like it, we can be consumed by it if we wanted to, but that's where the Reiki energy can really help lift you out of that, so that you can move forward with it, and the healing that is needed for you, and how you can support yourself in your next steps and the levels of how you want to be involved in any sort of activism with it. And so that's really that Reiki piece of it is what's going to help you around it. Because I mean, you know, I think all of us can name just off of the top of our head, you know, 15 to 20 things that are happening in this world right now that have really affected our empathy. And that's just an easy thing to, like, we can name them easily. That's not like, if we continue to go down that rabbit hole, all of the things that we could name. But, you know, I think we're one person and we're working on ourselves and we're doing what we can, and we can't fix the problems, but you can see even as a group of people how much what we're doing here together matters, and how we all are coming together as a community through this modality to help each other through all of this, and using the Reiki energy to help it. And that, like Colleen said, that is what we can do, because honestly, otherwise we can just be pulled under by all of the things that are happening in our world, and it can be too much. But that the Reiki energy can help us navigate that. And there are days where it's like pulled under by it, and then there's other days where it's like, okay, I have my clarity around it, and how I can proceed forward, what I can do, how I need to navigate all of this. And it's, you know, it's why climate anxiety is a thing. It's why it is now a thing that affects us, you know. And so it is, and this idea that, you know, we put that responsibility of fixing it all onto our own shoulders. But this is really, really a place where the Reiki energy can help us to navigate that. And all Reiki energy can help us to navigate it. But because I know you're tuned to the animal Reiki energy, really call in that and help you to navigate it and lift some of that from you and for you. Like you said, I know sometimes that's where it's hardest. And so I hear you on that, and know that you're not alone in that, that is very it's normal also, and to not completely bypass your feelings on it too. So just, really try to use that Reiki energy to navigate that piece of it.
Thank you. And that really is key, Robyn, reminding me to no longer be Jacob Marley and stuff everything and be shackled and chained, and just continue doing what I have been, which is go out there and commune with them and sing the symbols and swim with them, and just let it be. So thank you for that. I really appreciate and acknowledge each of you, because I do live in my bubble and I don't know what I don't know. So I was really shocked to experience so many, but very wise words, very wise coaching, and thank you.
Yeah, thanks, it's a reality of the world that we live in. And so it's an important topic to talk about, because I think, especially in these fields, in these realms where we're in energy work, we're also empathic, and it is work to manage that. And it's like the things that ping that empathy can be different for all of us, and it's various, and it also can be a lot. So it is one of the things that we do need to talk about as empaths. And how do we navigate all of that? Okay, so we have an anonymous question here. And let me just scroll up to it. Okay, just make sure I'm okay. I feel a strong force encouraging me to learn Reiki to guide and help others, but I am bit scared of it. I feel that to commit to it would take 100% of my life, which I'm not opposed to, just scared.
Fair enough. The only thing I will tell you is that Reiki works with you at the level you want to, and then yes, it can be very compelling. And so I know for myself, when I first learned Reiki, I was like, whoa, this is so exciting. And I just wanted to do Reiki with everybody. It will never impose on you. And I think, like anything, you can, get super enthused about something and just want to do it all the time, but it will not impose that on you. And one of the other things I will say, and I'm not sure if I'm hearing between the lines, Reiki does not have the same level of requirement and dogma that we are used to thinking of maybe practices, spiritual practices requiring. So it does not have a lot of like, you have to do it exactly this way in order to be doing it correctly, getting it right, or using it a particular way. We can go back to the history of Reiki, and to begin with, understanding Reiki as an energy. And people were working with Reiki energy prior to Usui Sensei, the founder of this lineage of Reiki. And the difference with him was he actually, when he received the Reiki energy, he actually created the attunement to go with it. But that was like even a year after he received it. In fact, it was 100 years ago, almost right about now, next month, that he actually added the attunement to it. So because of the attunement, the energy is going to work through you rather than from you. And it does not require you to do everything exactly right and exactly the same way. And, just doesn't have those kinds of rules that maybe you have concerns about that other traditions do have. So that's one of the things. The other thing is that if you are hearing this level of tapping internally, it's probably pretty compelling. And the nice thing with it is you also get to determine your level of how you work with it. So working with it for yourself is enough. You are definitely not required to now become a practitioner and have a business and, suddenly you're doing everything all the time Reiki. That can be done if you feel called to do that. Having taught Reiki and shamanism for over 20 years, I can tell you that what I think that tapping really is related to more than anything is for us to finally be able to hear ourselves and to actually be connected into our own inner truth. And that always comes first. So you may end up sharing it with others to understand that about yourself. But ultimately, that's what I think the tapping is about, is it's you inside of you saying, you know what, there's a deeper me that I want to know, and I want to be able to hear me. So, I know for so many of us, learning to hear ourselves, we just did not learn that to the degree that is actually true and possible. And in many ways, we were taught not to hear ourselves or to hear a different version of ourselves than what is actually inside. And so I really think, I really find that as having taught and been a practitioner all these years, that to me, it's really, that's what that inner tapping is. So the main thing is you get to do Reiki on your terms. And that for me was really important. Now, when I first learned Reiki, originally there were a lot of rules around it, and there were a lot of wrong ways to do it. And so I was very glad to find, once the evidence-based history of Reiki was discovered, and it was discovered that Reiki has always evolved, adapted, and worked with all of us individually and collectively in the ways that we need it. That, I got to find out that it got to be me for my own self-discovery, even though for me, I did feel compelled to work with others and with the animals and with the kids and family and grandkids and stuff like that.
A
But
lot.
what?
A lot.
A lot.
Colleen was evangelical about it when she first learned it. I was a teenager.
Robyn would be like, sit on your hands, Mom.
Quit chasing me around.
I wanted to do Reiki on her friends. Like, no.
Mom,
I'll go to your school. We could do an assembly at your school about it.
God.
I didn't really say that, but I
No.
would have if it would have been possible. Yeah, I have to admit. So yeah, that's the other side of it, is that could happen to you too.
It could. And then on the opposing end of the spectrum, I was attuned when I was in high school, right? And I didn't really use them at all. And then, but I took my master class when I was in my early 20s, and didn't like really use it other than just personally for different reasons for, until really like 10 years, give or take a few years after that, and then didn't become professional until my mid 30s. So, there's also that perspective of that it was really just for me. And I didn't know why I said yes. I just kept saying yes. And now it's led me down a path that is like, as far as like my work and what I do with my life, the happiest I've ever been. And I know it was leading me this whole time. But I just kept saying yes and didn't know the outcome and didn't have that attachment to it originally, that it was going to be professional. So there is the both sides of the spectrum, because it didn't really, impose that piece on it. I was in college when I did my master attunements. So it was really, and I was like, all right, I'll do that this weekend, not knowing exactly.
Well, I was teaching in San Diego and she was going to college in San Diego. So she was doing that with me also. And as an example, for instance, in the rest of our family, I'm just really blessed by it that, everybody is willing to receive Reiki and engage with it to a degree. But like my husband is a Reiki master, he's, stays up with all of it, and we share Reiki back and forth. But he has a construction company and he uses it in his business. So he uses it, like he uses Reiki with his eyes, Reiki Gyoshiho, and he'll go into the buildings that they're working on, and he looks like he's just inspecting the work. And in fact, he's placing Reiki all over. He uses Reiki in meetings. He uses Reiki for things like his bids. My son, who also works with him, and his business partner, they've all received Reiki attunements, but they work with it at very different levels. And then in the family level, of course, Robyn has it in her family and her daughter. And then my son and his wife and their two kids have all received it, but they work with it at completely different levels. Like my daughter-in-law is a real estate agent. And so things like when she learned how to use the Reiki grid, she would place the crystals on the corners of the land and put the grid, the center crystal in the center, and send Reiki that way. And has, done different things for clients and stuff. And of course, she doesn't impose it on anybody, but if people walk into the field, it's there. Even finding connections for people to do house clearings and things like that. So there's lots of different ways that the Reiki energy can fold into your life. And although in the training, we teach you the skills that you need for like the hand positions to give Reiki to others, and the hand positions to give Reiki to yourself, and to do distance Reiki like in a session style. But really, Reiki energy is just so available to you for ordinary daily life things. And one of the things we've been really talking about that has just, I guess I've always thought about it and known it, but it's really highlighted for me, is that what Reiki does with you is, in addition to the moment you're aware you're using it, it's activating your intention, and it brings in insight. And so, those instant, like, oh, there it is. A lot of times we're not assigning that to the Reiki energy because it's happening at a completely different time and maybe in a completely different subject. But it's tuning you in. It's like it's dialing the frequencies into that place where solutions reside, into that place where the answers show up, the insights come in. And so to me, it's actually a whole brain function. We just did a podcast with Ann Baldwin, and she is a physiologist and wrote the book, the Reiki and Clinical Practice, a scientific guide, and really science-based guide, and really explains it, from so much of that, like connection, energy connection. So back to your question, yeah, you may or may not get obsessed. So, just being honest. one of the things that was really beneficial for me, and one of the main reasons it never occurred to me that I would work with Reiki, that Robyn was just talking about with M, was because my empathy was so powerful that it never occurred to me that I could actually work with Reiki on a professional level. Just because if somebody felt pain, I felt pain, and I didn't know how to manage it. What happened with Reiki energy is it gave me a tool to manage it. So I could actually bring in the Reiki energy. It now was doing the work and could remove my own like life force connection to the feelings of others. And with empathy, that's what I'm speaking of, is that, I can tap into even like having the tools to not all of the sudden tap into the worry about the whales. And so, not that I don't have that, but I need to be able to have the tools to separate from the deep feeling that can come in when you're a Reiki practitioner and people are coming to you with some very serious things that you might hear. And so the Reiki energy really makes a difference with that. And of course, I still have really powerful empathy, but now usually the difference is I can recognize what isn't mine and what is mine. And so I can recognize if I get too connected in, and then I have the tool, because Reiki is both a tool, but it also is the energy to shift me back, let the Reiki do the work. I'm still getting to engage with it, but I'm not having to be connected with the empathic feeling and experience. So that was probably when I received Reiki energy and that piece of it shifted. That's what allowed me to move forward, which at the time I had no idea that it was even something it was not on my radar at all. I was making my living as a fiber artist, going back to the teaching knitting, and had a very successful business and was teaching knitting on, things like as a presenter and an kind of an expert in the field and things like that. So I was not looking for something different. But I will tell you, as soon as I received the attunements, I was pretty much like, this is what I've been looking for. And what I know now that I didn't know then is what I was looking for was me. And Reiki energy took me into that deeper part of me, so I could hear me, see me, love me. That's a whole process in itself and a whole other topic and discussion. But it definitely, yeah. So anyway, you'll know if you, at one point, you're going to get onto some website and you're going to push the button on register, and then you'll know. And until then, you can wait until you feel ready.
May the force be with you.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Okay, so the next question is, let's see. Okay. So I've read that in the original Japanese Usui Reiki, the first two symbols are not mantras, they are just symbols, but the third symbol, which is kanji, is. And also that because of the first two symbols were just drawn and name not used, but the third symbol's name was stated to use it. In parentheses, William Rand also said in a class that the symbol names were not mantras, but I've also read that the names of all the symbols were used as mantras then. Can you give any clarity and latest info on this? And then there's a second part. Oh, Francina, which says all 4 symbols, the first 3, and then the master, Usui master symbol are mantras.
Mhm. So, I read that question this morning in my email, and I was thinking about it, and I don't know that I have really investigated it from that question. Well, in fact, I'm certain that I haven't investigated the symbols as mantras and were they originally used that way. So the power symbol, in what I have been taught is that its literal translation is by the emperor's decree, and that it is a Shinto symbol, and there's a certain command level to it. Also, with the understanding that the emperor is, at that time, was considered to be a divine human being manifest on earth as emperor. And so it also meant by divine decree. For me, the power symbol mantra that I have been using for years for myself and then with others is the power of love, and working with it that way. And I invite the power symbol as the power of love with that focus on the energy. So in that way, I would say I personally use it as a mantra. However, I don't know that I am using the mantra the same way other people are. This is a way that it has shown itself for me. The second one, the mental emotional symbol, its literal translation is to change a habit. And for me, it is the connection to our divine mind. And so the energy of it is the origination of the symbol, again, in my understanding. And a lot of this stuff, research keeps happening. So there can be changes in the research and new information that we're not all, privy to and caught up with. But that if you look at the Hri symbol on Mount Karama, it looks very much like the mental emotional symbol, but a little bit more stylized. And the Hri symbol actually is the word love. How the energy of it has shown itself to me is activating our higher consciousness from a divine perspective of our own divine spirit. So not only the spiritual guidance from an external source, but our own divine guidance from our own internal divine self. And that it is activating that part of our consciousness and mind with things like our human mind, of things like our intuition, our intellect, our imagination, instincts, inner truth, inner awareness. So for me, when I invite the power of the divine mind, and we do this in our invocations all the time, so we could say, breathe in the light and the power of love, and that's the power symbol. Breathe in the light and the power of the divine mind, and that is breathing in that mental emotional symbol and activating those parts. And then the distance symbol for me is the power of the divine heart. And that is not talked about in other places, but it has always shown itself to me as the connection. And, Yukuten Inamoto and Hiroshi Doi Sensei both stated that the meaning of that symbol, the distance symbol, is the origin of all is pure consciousness. And so the way that the energy of that symbol shows up for me is in that moment when pure consciousness became self-aware as you, that spark is pure love, pure light, pure mind, pure heart. And now your spirit exists as something unique that is self-aware. And so all I can really do is talk about its meaning for me. And yes, I would say that that shows up in a mantra style. And so I think that there is also the awareness of each of the energies of the symbols and how they work for us. And so working with them in mantras that perhaps other people have defined as their meaning. And if those mantras have meaning to you and you resonate with them, you can adopt them as a mantra. You could get an entirely different answer from a different teacher that is more specific about that idea, like what is the exact mantra. From what I have read from others and why I finally went to me and what it is, how it shows up for me, is there's such a variety of answers to that. And I do absolutely honor so many of them as experts in the field that have done significant research and have very in-depth knowledge. So I guess more than anything in the summary of it, I think there's a lot of right answers to that. But again, that would be how I view things. And another person might say, no, there's actually this answer, and here is the mantra. And that could be true too. So, Robyn, I see that you are.
Yeah, well, and same with the precepts, right? They
The
can
precepts are the
used
same
in
thing.
those. There's different interpretations in the translation. They can be used as mantras. Some see them as mantras, others don't, that they, are to be recited in the morning, in the night, in the evening, every day. Well, that was on the stone and as a part of the precepts. So there's, and used as a meditation. So there's those interpretations as well. And like you said, Colleen, very much we're Reiki your way, but also honor that other people have definite ways that they do that. And really, it's all about how you connect into it. What gets you to that place of healing for you? What gets you to that place of more fulfillment, more, joy, less anger, less worry, doing things in the way that you do them, what you're called to for kind of your life's purpose, things like that, it is just your path to wellness. So how do you connect into that? It's going to be defined differently for every person. But I think the most important thing is that you use the different ways to get there. It's like, here's the end of the trail, and we're all going to be taking different paths to get to the end of the trail. And we just did a podcast. Well, not just, it was a little while ago now, where we did a podcast with Franz. And he talked about his book, The Way of Reiki. So if you haven't checked out that episode, check out that episode because his book's phenomenal. And we had a really great time talking to him about kind of some of these concepts, the symbols.
Has a great Facebook page too. And I've noticed lately he's been posting a lot and a lot of this kind of information. And he has done a lot of research and very skilled. Same with Walter Lubeck. We just did his podcast too. But as an example, since you brought up the Reiki ideals, and Reiki ideals can be called precepts, ideals, principles. And those are the just for today. I will not be angry. I will not worry. I will be filled with gratitude. devoted to my work and be kind to others. And we can see that there are a lot of new translations of that. That exact translation is what Chetna Kobayashi was, her mother was the one who translated the precepts, or the Gokai in Japanese is what they're called, into that, these definitions. And in another teaching around the Gokai, or the precepts, the ideals, is that they were, I'm sorry, I'm trailing into two different discussions. I was going into the symbols and the Kodadama of the symbols. So I'll finish up with the precepts and then I'll talk about the Kodadama in a minute. But the precepts, if you think about in Japan, the sound of the words is also contributing to the frequency. So, in Japanese is kyodake wa okaruna, and kyodake wa shinpai suna. So the sound of the words also have some value too. But of course, we do need to translate it so that they have meaning. But going back to the symbols and the Kodadama, that's a whole other teaching and training that I had back from Nita Mokanu, maybe back in 2004, 2005. And the recognition that the Reiki symbols actually have Kodadama that work with them, or that they work with. So for instance, in the Kodadama are the sounds. In Japanese, there are Kodadama masters, and the Kodadama are holding the sounds of creation together. Like the sound is the vibration and the frequency. So the Kodadama for the power symbol is, I have to stop and get my brain on that track, Hokue. For the mental emotional symbol is Aaki. And the distance symbol, Howazehone. And the Usui master symbol, Aiko-yo. So those Kodadama are thought to be a part of the system of Reiki, and it makes sense. However, I will also do a qualifier that there is no actual written evidence that Usui Sensei was intentionally using Kodadama as the names of the symbols. So, you always have to qualify for what is backed up by evidence of it, but the sounds are pretty evidential, so Hokue, Aaki, Howazehone, Aiko-yo. And so there is a CD by Jonathan Goldman, his wife, Annie, and Laurel Gaia, who was my mentor. She has since passed. In a couple of weeks, it'll be a couple of years. And what is today? Is the day Pam passed. It's a year.
Yeah, 1 year.
Yeah. So anyway, Laurel, the music by Jonathan Goldman is the Kodadama called Reiki Chants, and Michael Baird. So it's those four chanting, and it's a beautiful CD. I would imagine it's got to be on YouTube, or it's both on YouTube, but it's also on iTunes if you wanted to download it. But the Kodadama, they chant.
Also Spotify. It's on Spotify as well. Spotify. It's also
on
there.
Spotify. Oh, good to know. Okay. Yeah, Jonathan Goldman is the one. He was the composer and the producer of it. He's actually a Grammy award-winning sound healer. And so it's beautiful. And it's one of those that I will just play in my home on a regular basis. So the sound is always flowing through with those Kododama. And because it was chanted by Michael Laurel, Jonathan, and Annie, it is so empowered with Reiki energy. I mean, it's really amazing. But so there's another example. If you go into that whole teaching and what is behind the Kododama with the symbols, that's also another whole aspect. So my recommendation is to like go into all of it and kind of, as Robyn was saying, find out what is resonating for you, like what is really powerful for you. And then you also can have your own. And that's how it showed up for me. When I was first learning Reiki and learning the symbols, there were so many books out about Reiki that had kind of a lot of the old history, kind of inaccuracies of information. And there was such a difference in the information that different people had about Reiki that once I just decided I needed to let the Reiki energy teach me what it was. And then once I understood more about the evidence-based history of Reiki and some of the accuracies of this information and some of these people who have done the research like William Rand, Franz Stina, Walter Lubeck, and many others, Arjava Petter, and then there's some of the Canadian, and European Reiki masters that have done a lot of the research too. So Nita Mokanu, another one. But a lot of the research is still continuing. I'm super excited. I just got a book called Women in Reiki. And I just got it in and I haven't had a chance to even crack it open yet, but excited to check it out too. And have more guests on as podcast guests so you guys can listen to them in person too.
Okay. Well, Kaz, you had a couple of questions. Go ahead. You have to unmute yourself.
I think this, for now, it's one of the main ones because Colleen and I talk about things. So it's like, does holy fire ignition enhance baptism and confirmation sacraments? Did I blow your mind, Colleen?
Well, again, I don't know that I'm the expert in that topic. I think it would be a matter of if you wanted it to do that.
Oh,
And
okay.
maybe I will just answer. I just talked about this somewhere, must have been in my master class. So for me, actually, if I'm just being really truthful about my own experience, when I first received holy fire, one of the very first things that it did was actually came in and healed my baptism and healed some of those sacraments that on vows that were oaths that were spoken for me that were not necessarily that I wasn't in agreement with. And I will tell you, I did not go in with that intention. I had no idea that that's what was going to show up or any part of it. And so what it showed me was that actually my soul knew before I was born that I would be born into these spiritual religious practices and these relationships. So, I was raised Catholic and I was born knowing that I would have the relationship with Jesus, Mother Mary, some of the saints, the angels, Mary Magdalene. I was actually baptized and confirmed in St. Mary Magdalene. So a connection there. But there were parts of it and parts of the ceremony that my soul did not agree to. And so the connections that I was in agreement with were strengthened. So like my relationships with those beings was strengthened, but then I also noticed like the energy of the removal of the parts that I was not in agreement with.
Oh.
And so it just did that. And again, because, you know, part of my skill set is to be able to observe what it's doing. It would never do that without someone's permission. So if a person did not want anything changed, it would not do that. And you wouldn't need to know that going in. Reiki would be able to work with you for that. But for me, there were definitely parts of it that needed healing. And it brought me into a closer relationship, both with those spiritual beings and my relationship with them, but also where I think because I left Catholicism in the way that I did, I kind of threw out the baby with the bathwater, if you will. It actually brought me back into just more of a peaceful relationship with the church and the good that they do and that can be done. And, you know, again, going back to that thing, I can't do everything about everything, but what I can do is be in alignment with some of the beauty that's there. Although I haven't gone back to that practice, I'll tell you what, I still love it when I walk into those beautiful churches, you know. And when I go to Europe, one of the first things that I know it's, you know, a different church, but
Gotta go to
when I
Rome.
go to Europe, the first thing I want to look for are the evensong masses at 5 p.m. all over Europe in the cathedrals.
Wow. Yeah.
They sing that the men's and boys choirs sing the mass.
Oh,
And
wow.
I will tell you what, the sound in the cathedrals is just like the whole time, it's just this beautiful chill. And so I feel like what it did was gave me back that like feeling of appreciation, not necessarily wanting to belong, but I no longer had the kind of resistance to it all. I can, and I guess as much as anything, some of my own reverse judgment. There's really the truth is it healed my reverse judgment for those who
Thanks,
judge me.
Colleen. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I've been feeling these, but like you put it into words. Thank you.
yeah, it was a
You know,
different feeling, I will tell you. I didn't
very
know it was coming, and afterwards it was like, what was that? And
exactly.
it took some adjusting. Because, you know,
I
when
mean,
you're a baby,
how many times can I watch Father Stew?
right? Right. So anyway, so that's just my experience with it. I think it would be an individual and unique experience for each person, according to you, that there's never going to be a specific way. I have, as a Reiki practitioner, I have done baptisms. You know, I do ceremonies of all different kinds, and I have done baptisms for people, but connecting them to their relationship with who they are connected to, which, you know, in these cases, it has all been creating that connection to Jesus and God and the way that they want that.
Right, right.
So and utilizing the Reiki energy in the mix. That a lot of people would not want that. And so it's truly just an honoring of what is true for each person.
Yeah, well, stuff is happening.
There it is, right?
That's Reiki for you, you know?
Yeah, back to the person asking about, I don't know about this. It's like you never know.
I didn't either in the beginning. I was like, oh, all right, I'll do it. I will never look back. It's one of the best experiences that I've been having my whole life. Well, I don't know how many years now, but I would never give up Reiki. I can't do that. I want more.
It is my life management tool.
Right,
That's how I get through life. Yeah.
right. You only remember one life at a time.
Right. Well, speaking of that, with all of that, I do remember a lot of my lifetimes. A lot of them with religion. Yeah. My whole lineage, we have been spiritual revolutionaries in one way or another. It's very genetic. So,
Wow.
yeah, very genetic.
Thanks, Colleen.
Thank you. And putting it as spiritual revolutionaries is a kind way to say it, but accurate.
Oh,
But yeah,
I get you.
on both sides of yeah, of all of it.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. So another question. This is from Andrea Muria. She said I could use her name. She had to hop off though. Can we comment on why I feel Karuna Reiki brings the physical healing right away? And with Holy Fire 3 World Peace is wonderful too. And it provides the feeling of healing along the days after the session. Oh, and more emotional. So I think the Karuna, it feels more physical, and then like maybe the Master Holy Fire World Peace feels more emotional.
That's a really good observation. I hadn't really put it into those terms. I'm gonna listen around the Karuna part of it, because that's accurate. It is physical. I just hadn't thought of it that way. So I'm gonna go to the world peace emotional part of it. I would have to say the world peace Reiki upgrade for me was emotional, because it also showed me the places where I was not peaceful and helped to release those and bring in a new energy around it that is peaceful, and gives me a greater ability to move into equilibrium when something is disturbing or feels destabilizing. I think that I have a greater ability to balance into peace than I did before. And I would say that the peace then comes into, again, because what can I do to promote peace? What can I actually do to promote peace? Is to promote peace this particular way. But first of all, within myself. Karuna Reiki, because the energy is compassionate action. So if you think of the word compassion, is really a human experience, because if you think of in the enlightened realm, there would only be compassion and what that actually means. There wouldn't be a lack of compassion or an absence of it. So to me, it is a very physical part of us. And then action indicates physicality. But more than anything, I would say it takes me to the first, excuse me, the first two symbols with Karuna Reiki, Zonar and Halu. And in Karuna, we can say the names of the symbols because we do so much sound healing with them. But the Karuna, those first two symbols are very much about what we now call epigenetics. It wakes up the higher qualities of a person in your own cellular memory, your systems, your physical body, so it can heal the cellular injuries that you've sustained. At the same time, it really wakes up that cellular knowledge that you have innately. And so there's so much wisdom within us at those deeper levels that sometimes we lose our access to them, or they're hidden from our own view. Our own real truth can be hidden from our own view. And so I think the energy of it, because I think of like each symbol, hearth, that's hearth and Shanti are the two symbols that seem the most kind of otherworldly to me. And hearth is just that love that God, the spirits, whatever you call that, has for us, the earth actually has for us, and compassion that is known about really how difficult it is to be a human being and live in the duality that we live in. So there is an extraordinary level of divine compassion for us. And then some of the other ones, like Rama, to me is very much about balanced embodiment of the energy. So that Rama energy, just if you've seen the symbol, it's like it's so connected to the earth and it's very balanced, and the energy is running from above and from below, and it's in this perfect balance in the center in the symbol itself. And so for me, it's very much about that unified self of our divine self and our human self unified. And then Nosa, to me, again, and not everybody defines these ways, but for me and the way they work for me is Nosa is very much about your authentic intellect. And again, your authentic intellect at these really deep levels, you think of your soul's knowledge and the gifts and talents that are part of your cellular makeup that can now be accessed because you're connecting in at that deeper level. And so authentic intellect takes it to that whole next level of your soul's knowledge and your spirit's knowledge that wakes up in your human knowledge and wakes up your human knowledge that is so beneficial to have. William and I were talking about it this morning, and it's like, it's very beneficial to be connected with the earth, like, and being human, because we live here and this is where our souls are. So each of the symbols, then we get into Iava, the same thing, authentic power, like what is your personal power? And again, that's going to be physical, but also mental and emotional. All of these are going to have all of them, but there's the physicality of it that goes with it. Now that you say it, I hadn't really put it that way before. And then Shanti with being that peace and calm and inner depth of peace. And then Kriya, the last symbol, to me is that just stable action, stable communication, stable communion, and most of all with yourself, because so often, we just, need some help with even something as simple as what's our to-do list today, and how am I going to accomplish it, and what order of things am I doing things, and maybe it's, for what is my to-do list for this month, and what are my priorities. It's very much like it can really help you with those priorities, and it can do it from that infinite perspective, like from way out in the biggest picture, all the way to what we call here mouse vision, where what's right in front of you, what's immediate. And we can go to eagle vision and see the path ahead and the path behind, but it's all very much about being human. And so, yeah, Andrea, I think you're right that I hadn't thought of it that way, but it is physical, and the results are physical. And then I'm even talking about physical on a mental and emotional level, but the physical part of your physical body is also very much a part of Karuna Reiki.
I was just going to add one quick thing too, is that to me, the symbols of Karuna Reiki, they're kind of like the frequencies of, if you think about white light splitting into the colors of the rainbow, that's kind of how they manifest, or how I imagine them. And also they work really on those frequencies, just as kind of how you were describing, Colleen, of the chakras. And so the idea that they, have the colors, they work with the chakras, that it's physical in that way too, and that they somewhat meet the frequencies of that. And I know there's more Karuna symbols than there are chakra, the 7 main and versus the 8, but that's how it always kind of comes in when people need chakra alignment, rebalancing, any work within the qualities of the chakras too. So that idea that it's, again, physical, and the chakras, they contain the ideas that are more than just the physical body, like you said, that mental, emotional, spirit piece of the physicality that we have here on earth.
That was a great question.
Yeah.
Lots of great questions today. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a couple more.
Okay.
And then,
Stay.
yeah. So, but I know we're getting to time. So for any of you that need to hop off, definitely feel comfortable at any point. And then I think, Colleen, if we can somewhat keep them, concise,
Short.
just concise.
He's tactfully trying to say, Mom, keep it
No,
short.
not at all. No, you're good. Okay. When you journey for yourself, do you recommend using guided meditations, journeys, or just music or silence? And should I send an invocation first to set my intentions on what I want to learn or insight I want to gain?
So why don't you read that question over? I think I understand it, but read it over again.
Essentially, when you're journeying for yourself, do you use a guided journey? Do you use music? Do you set intentions? Do you do your own invocation? So how does that all work?
So again, that's going to vary by person and circumstance and each time. So sometimes I journey on the fly, where it's like, okay, I'm going to ask this question, Reiki on, and I'm doing everything else I'm still doing, and invite the journey to come in through insight. If I want to be in a full journey state, then for myself, this is personally, I actually do need to do an invocation for myself. And I do need to activate all the symbols kind of longhand, where I'm, drawing the symbols on my hands, placing them in the room. And mainly because each of the actions get my mind to the energy. The energy never requires a particular way you do any of it, but my own mind requires me to do the things that can get my focus in. I do like to listen to music. You can also, it's one of the reasons we do so many journeys on YouTube is that you can listen to others, and we post ours, guided meditations, our invocations, and our Reiki journeys. We post them on YouTube for people to listen to. And I think Cheryl asked this question, and she's in class a lot. So also the recordings that you have from the next step classes, you can redo those journeys over and over again. But if you're just starting out for yourself, there's lots of ways that it's going to work for each person. And, the original, if you are doing journeys where you are more skilled in shamanic journeying, you might want to use drums or rattles or a drumming, I say CD, but not everybody uses CDs anymore, but drumming music that you can get online also. You may find different music that you like to listen to, and you may have your own music. We do the guided journeys. I think on YouTube, we do put them to music.
We do.
On those recordings.
Yeah.
So it really is a matter of your own preference. And I would try all of it, because there's a lot of advantage to being able to journey on the fly, a lot of advantage to be able to journey in sessions, and then a lot if you're just journeying for yourself. And I will tell you, even as a really experienced journeyer, there are plenty of times that I get into the journey and it's full mind chatter. Like blah, 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 blah. Stop. No, blah, nope. I'm journeying. Stop. And it takes me into mind chatter. And what I have learned to do is to realize that all my journeys have meaning. I always want them to be kind of the fantastical, amazing journeys that are, the aha moments. But sometimes they're very basic. Sometimes I get one word. Sometimes it's going to make me fall asleep. Sometimes I'm going to go into the gap. Sometimes I might be completely distracted. I do a lot of automatic writing in my journeys, free writing, just because I find that to simplify it. So it really is on a personal level, but I do want people to know that, even for all the years I've been doing it, I can have the ones that are like, well, yeah, I think today it's trying to show me what my mind chatter is about. What am I distracted by? All the mind chatter I have going on. And then that ends up being the journey, and it shows me this is what's going on, and this is why I'm distracted, and it can help me weed through the distractions on which ones am I going to be distracted by and which ones am I going to let go. I thought that was one of the great sayings. I can't remember who said it, but it's only a distraction if you're distracted. I was like, oh yeah. Just look at it.
And it's going to change each time too, even as you gain experience. So your music preferences are going to change. What gets you there are going to change. It could be, you could go through a phase of one and then it switches, or you could want different ones every time. As Colleen says, you're going to have a variety of different experiences. Sometimes you're going to want to spend time in it. Other times you're going to be in a cycle where you can't. And so just, it's all, as Colleen said, it's all information, all showing you.
Yeah.
All right. So we have two more questions. For a while now, my guides have been pulling me to learn the Usui Tibetan master style. Currently, I'm a Holy Fire 3 Karuna master, but I really feel I could learn something from the other style also. Is this allowed? It's on the master manual. If you're called to teach it, you are allowed, but you just have to say a prayer. Is the same true for learning it? Understanding that also I want to continue on this path and don't want it to interfere with me taking next step next year. I'm really hoping to broaden my horizon, but want to confirm.
So absolutely. So there are other lineages of Reiki, and the one that she was asking about specifically is the Usui Tibetan lineage. And that was the lineage I worked with for 16 years prior to working with Holy Fire. I personally decided to work with Holy Fire exclusively because I knew that I would be writing about it, that I would be in a leadership position with it. And I really wanted to make sure I understood the energy and how it does the same work. But I have loved my Tibetan symbols and still have a relationship with them. So you can absolutely take any of the other lineages you feel guided to in this lineage. Some of the other lineages don't want you to take multiple lineages or multiple trainings. And that would be just a matter of, honoring that system that you're choosing to receive the training in. And so there's not a right or wrong, it's just different practices and traditions. So in this lineage, we are very open to people of all lineages, and that you may find that you want to train in multiple ones with different teachers, and absolutely do. When you go to teach, understand that if you are teaching the Usui Tibetan lineage, that is its own outline, its own outline, curriculum, techniques, traditions of ways things are done. And if you teach Holy Fire, there are Reiki, there are different techniques and traditions and practices in the ways that it's done. So you would teach each lineage independently, like you wouldn't really combine the two lineages. As a practitioner, you might, but when you're teaching, you would want to, so that your students, if they're signing up for Usui Tibetan, they know they're getting that lineage and that training. If they're signing up for Holy Fire, they are getting that lineage and that training. Again, not hierarchical, not better than, it's just understanding one is one curriculum and one is another curriculum. But as a practitioner working with the energies, you can definitely combine the energies. I decided to work with Holy Fire energy exclusively with the Usui Holy Fire energies, so that I could get to know it and how it did its work. But that was a personal journey for me. And it's not required. It was just a personal choice. Go ahead, Cass.
Are you talking about the things that Anna and Carlos taught in the Master?
Yes. Anna
Those
and
older
Carlos
symbols?
Gonzalez in New York taught
Yeah.
Usui Tibetan for 20 some odd years.
When I say, "Ooh, I could use this," or yeah, I use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because it's in me.
Exactly.
This stuff is in.
It is in you. Absolutely. And so each person gets to follow their own guidance, and some you'll resonate with more than others. And some of the teachings you'll resonate with more than others. There's lots and lots of right ways that it all works. If you work with Rainbow Reiki, that Walter Lubeck that we just did the podcast with, he teaches that one, and he has a lot of other techniques and symbols that he's working with. And each lineage has a variety of ways that they're working with things, techniques to work with the energy. So I think the energy is not restrictive. So, but some of the lineages can be. So then you just honor that lineage. But in this case, it's open, just with an understanding of, if you're teaching it, you would want to teach two different, like one weekend you would teach Usui Tibetan and another weekend Holy Fire. And mainly so that your students are, if that's what they are registering for and signing up for the class, that they are getting the curriculum that they joined you for.
And also just the last part of your question, none of it will interfere with the next step. Other than
Oh, yeah.
if you're inspired by it and, as we were talking about earlier, having it consume all of your time, that would be the only place that you might find not conflict, but that you just have you're focusing in one area rather than another. But it all works with the next step, and it's kind of like in the same way that any of the Reiki classes are. You take it on a weekend and you obviously have that in your life as it kind of you have more effects than just the 3 days before and after of a weekend, but that's it's not like it takes more than that of time and effort and things like that. So absolutely can work in conjunction with all of it. So yep, animal Reiki as well. Animal Reiki is open to all lineages. So well, I think we did it.
That's
So,
everything.
go ahead and wrap up. That was a really fun episode. Thank you all so much for being here and wonderful questions. Always love the different places that it takes us. And then to all of you that are listening later, thank you all so much for joining us. And like I said at the beginning, if you ever want to join us live, we do this once a month and you're always welcome to. Okay, thank you all so much. ReikiLifestyle.com, and we will see you next time.